I don't know why it stopped. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, then you'll be doing the build knowledge and language section. So you're going to show this, if you can look in your PLG, it's right there on page 42. They're going to be accessing their prior knowledge and then do an active viewing. So you want to make sure that you are asking the essential question. How does exploring help us understand the world around us? Then you're going to be providing the students with a 2-minute film in which they have to be paying attention to their senses, and then they're going to do a small activity. So here it is. And I'm going to show you the small activity. I want you to be cognizant and listening to what it's going to ask you. So here it is. Okay, pretend like I played it. Now, when I learned about blank, I used my blank sense. We're gonna do a partner activity. So I want you to have partner 1 and 2. The person whose birthday is closest to today will be partner 1, and the other person will be partner 2. So partner 1 will be the sharer. They will share and fill in the blanks with what they recall from the video, as partner 2 listens. Then when you're done, I want you to switch with each other and do the same. So go ahead and do that. Okay. Before we move on, as you can see in these little boxes, it's really good to see these reflection boxes. And as you're learning the curriculum and into reading, how to, questions that you might have going further. So if you could please go on to page 42 and 43 and answer those questions. 42 is, how do these activities establish equity among your students? And then 43, how do interreading materials engage students during foundational skills instruction? Just take 2 minutes for yourselves, and please, 2 minutes per prompt. Write down your thoughts, and then we'll come back together. Time's up. So, the foundational skills, as I've mentioned, will be the word work, high frequency words. These will take about 15 to 30 minutes, again, depending on your literacy block. Those will always be found in purple. As you notice, the build knowledge and language portion is only shown on lesson 1 because you're introducing the topic to the students. After lesson 1, you won't see it. Oops, sorry. There we go. So, foundational skills, like I said, would be word work. You can see here on your page 43, high frequency words that the students will be learning. Then there's their phonological awareness, their phonics, and their spelling. You also are given materials such as word cards and letter cards that you can work with the students so that they are using their phonics and their blends and learning their vocabulary, their sounds, like the long O with O, row, I don't know. So once that portion of the foundational skills is over, we turn to vocabulary. And again, vocabulary will not be shown on lesson 1. It's only going to be starting on lesson 2. Your vocabulary will be about 10 to 15 minutes. And this includes power words, which is the words that are consistent throughout literature that students are understanding. Then there's generative language, which are the power words of the week that kind of are used as a springboard to understand the semantic relationship with words. And then finally, we have vocabulary strategies. You want to implement strategies for students so that they can understand unknown words. So here's just some examples of the vocabulary words, and you have some of those at your table that you would be having for the power words. The power words that we would have had for this particular lesson would have been examine, identify, and something else. So another one would be record. At your tables, you each have some of examples of these cards. On the front of it, we'll have a picture of it and the word record. On the back, the great thing about this is that it gives the teacher the opportunity to do some work with the students. So to teach this word, I'm going to need your help in participation. So number one, as you can see on the back of the card, you're going to say the word. So record. Very good, record. Okay, then you're going to explain the meaning. So record means to write things. When you record something, you write it down. Then you're going to show examples. So I say that John is recording his information or his notes in his notebook. And then the final thing will be acted out. You can show like an everyday object and then have the kids record it on the board. So for instance, if I had this rock and I would say, okay, give me some characteristics of this rock, then the students would be like, what? Okay, so it's black, it's small, it's shiny, and then we would record on our board the characteristics of that. So that's just a great example of some more manipulatives that you could have with the students to engage them in their vocabulary routine. Finally, after that, before we go on to the reading workshop, I'd like you to reflect on what you've learned about this. Take 2 minutes to say, how will learning about generative vocabulary, which we learned is that semantic relationship with those power words, students support as they encounter new vocabulary in the content areas. They're going to be examining different vocabulary and new words, and you want to make sure that there's that springboard to understand the new words. Okay, time is up. So finally, we have the reading workshop. This is the part where you will be using 3 sections that consists of 3 sections of our workshop. So if you look at your week at a glance, you can see that it will always be in the darker blue, and the timetable varies. We usually like to allot this is the bigger chunk, 60 to 75 minutes, because there are so many important things that you're going to be providing your students within this part. So here's an overview of the reading workshop. If you could all please go to page oops. Oh my gosh. 35, I think. Yes. Oh, here it was bent. It was bent. Okay. 35 in your PLGs, and follow along with me as I'm reading it. So, in this first little small section, we're going to have write down the whole group mini lesson instruction. This is where you come together as the class. You're going to provide a mini lesson to them for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then we go into the teacher-led instruction with the independent and collaborative portion work time and the rotations with the literacy centers. Finally, after that, those will take about 15 to 20 minutes each rotation. All students must participate in every rotation. And then, so about 15 to 20 minutes each rotation, we're going to come up to the wrap up and discuss portion. You want to share the information as a class and then come together and write them out on an anchor chart. So make sure you have all of your materials set up with this, especially your literacy centers. And I'll get into that in a little bit. So you have your shared reading mini lesson. The author's purpose is especially important. If you could, after we've already done this, let's step back 1 minute and everybody please fill out their reflection on here. Which I want you to do is, what do you already do in your classroom to support a workshop model? This might be new to some of you, and others you could say, oh yeah, I've been using this for a long time and this is how I feel about it. If you don't know what you've never used it before, that's okay. So please just feel free and write down your thoughts. Time has passed. Okay. So, shared reading mini lesson. You're going to use your anchor chart right here. Anchor charts are very important to discuss the author's purpose. I am on page 45 of your PLG. As you can tell, I love it. This is where you're going to use the author's purpose, and the students will be using their My Book, and you could be using your Teacher Pal. They could be reading the book, What's the Matter? And there's 3 things that you should be pointing out, which I have highlighted here. They want to understand the author's purpose, but also know what's the background knowledge of this type of text. Do the kids have any prior knowledge of this? Do they have any background information? Get them thinking about this before you go on to that. Then there's the shared reading with the stated purpose for reading. What is the author's purpose? And make sure you put that on the anchor chart. And then finally, there's the think, pair, share section. And you have to ensure that when you're putting these students into partners, you're going to ask that essential question. How does exploring help us understand the world around us? We brought that up in the lesson before with the building knowledge section. So I'm going to have you get into think, pair, share after I do this. And then I'll show you the anchor charts. We have many anchor charts that you can download and print from your friend in learning. And there are so many. We have the story structure, the elements of poetry, and text organization. So it depends on what type of text that you are teaching the students for the day. Okay, and then think, pair, share, activity. Then we'll do a little reflection. Before we move on, please look at your reflection on page 45. How might anchor charts support your students' learning both during the shared reading mini lesson and across other content areas? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I was on the wrong. No, I was right. Okay. Phew. Now we'll go on to the small group instruction. So this is where you're going to have different groups. The small group instruction is going to be led by me, the teacher. So I could be putting my groups based on my choice based on their educational needs. So for instance, I'm going to look at my data that I've compiled over the school year. And if Johnny, I feel, is in a lower group, I'm going to put him there, and then maybe Max is in a higher group, and I'm going to have him in a different group. You can put that in Your Friend in Learning and compile your data reports and group students as needed. So we have a few different groups that you can look at, and it's also on your page 46. Guided reading, where you're going to be reading with the students. Skill and strategy, pinpointing more of the skills that they need to work on and strategies to improve their reading. ELS, support, or English learning support, foundational skills, and then intervention. And another component that you can see over here is we have these wonderful tabletop mini lessons. So this can be for when you have a small group instruction. It'll have on this front what the students will see, and if you flip it around, it has your entire lesson plan and what you should be reading. So all you have to do, plop that on the table, your little kidney bean table, and you can work with your small groups like that. So that's one rotation of the reading workshop. Then we have the independent and collaborative work. If you feel that a student is doing very well and they can read independently, they can go to the reading library and pick their own book. We have Rigby leveled library books, both in print and digital, and it's at grade level. So it's not below grade level, it's at grade level for the students' understanding. And they can do that, or they can work with each other. They can kind of do some collaborative work on what they have been learning about. And you can also see here on page 47, the literacy centers. So the independent readers would be by themselves. The collaborative ones can be working on the high frequency words for the week. They can write a caption or a label, that sort of thing. So it really gives students choices and lets them have a little bit more freedom with what they're doing so that they don't feel bogged down with only doing one thing or feeling like they are a little bit ostracized if they're lower in reading or more gifted. Finally, we have the writing workshop. You have the materials. Finley, get over here. Come here. Come here. I'm so sorry. My dog is crazy right now. Okay, we have the writing workshop. So you have this teacher's guide. Come here. And this will provide you with a great learning lessons for the writing. Oh, and so the writing workshop will take 20 to 30 minutes, and it's always in green. So for instance, if you want to turn in your PLG to page, and forgot about the wrap up. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's on a page, and you'll go there in your PLG for your informational text. And this really helps you with, oh, there you go, 56 and 57. So this should show you that you'll introduce an informational text, the topic, and then of course the author's purpose of that text, so that the students are providing or are understanding what they are going to be learning about in the focal text. They also have to know using this elements of it and the anchor chart, and then you can use your materials that we have in your teacher's guide, and everything else is color coded just like before. It'll show you which materials that you have, your beginning, the language, the objectives, and the focal text like I was talking about. And then after you review the focal text, how to introduce the writing process. So the writing process, as you see in your PLG, will be comprised of 7 things. Your pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, publishing, sharing, and then conferring. It's very important to have students start learning the writing process now so that they can get better at that as they're getting older and writing more longer pieces of writing. So, having said that, now what I would like you to do is we're going to try a little activity in which you're allowed to do your own rotations with your students, or from the student experience, from the student perspective. So what I'm going to have you do is find the colored index cards on your table. had them. There they are. Whoops. There goes my thingy. Okay, so the whole group mini lesson, as I told you, will be introducing the topic and the book to the students for 15 to 20 minutes. The small group and independent work can be anywhere between 60 and 75 minutes, and then we'll come back together for a wrap-up, which is 5 minutes. You talk about what they've learned, you share and discuss, and then use the anchor chart to write everything, the love it and list it. So let's practice. I want you as teachers to see how it's going to be for the students to interact in this. And I really feel that it's important to start this from the very beginning, to practice and drill this into the students so that they know what they're doing, especially second graders. If they're confused, they're going to be running amok, not knowing which rotation to go to. So again, the the rotations are going to comprise of 3 literacy centers or rotations. Small group instruction with the teacher, collaborative work, and then the independent work. So we have different colored index cards at your table. We've got pink, purple, blue, and pink. I would ask that all of you take one. And then look at your color. So we don't have a blue one, but we have a yellow one. So if you are yellow, you're going to be number 1, you're going to go to small group. For the second rotation, you're going to go to the digital station. And then the third one, you're going to go to the independent and collaborative work. And don't worry, there are directions at each table. This is how I like to do it. So it's typically going to be about 15 to 20 minutes for each rotation. Today, we're only going to do 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, you either give a signal to the students or you have a sound. I like to use my phone. Some teachers like a bell or a chime, I don't know, a whistle, whatever is going to get their attention. So after 10 minutes, when I ring my bell, you're going to go to the next rotation on your card. Oops. Then after the following one, you'll go to the next one. So you'll go to 3 rotations within 30 minutes. Any questions? Okay, go and learn. All right, 10 minutes are up. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, go to the next rotation. Ding-a-ling-a-ling, go to the next rotation. Ding-a-ling-a-ling. Okay, everybody, let's come back together and let's do a wrap up and share. And I just dropped my love it and list it. Yep, I dropped my love it and list it sign. So let's pretend like this is the love it and list it sign. So what we're gonna do is I want you to use those Post-its that you have at your table and tell me if there's anything that you've liked. Ooh, I'm sorry, I'm going ahead. So after our wrap up and rotation, we'll take that about 5 minutes. Now that we're done with that, we're gonna do this. Okay, so love it and list it. If you loved it, please put it over here in red, that red Post-it note that you have. If there's something that you've liked about the reading workshop, you thought you could help, that's great, put it over here. If you have a question and there's something I don't understand, or could you explain this a little bit more? I don't get this, please put it in this section. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to do that and then we'll reconvene and go on to the next thing.